I stared at the wedding invitation in my hands, its gold embossed letters gleaming under my office lights. James and Victoria cordially invite you. My brother's wedding, the social event of the year, according to my mother's countless phone calls. She had been planning this for months, ever since James announced his engagement to Victoria Chen, daughter of one of the city's wealthiest families. The irony wasn't lost on me. 10 years ago, James had laughed when I dropped out of medical school to start my own company. Sarah's throwing her life away, he told our parents over dinner. She'll come crawling back when she runs out of money. I never did. Instead, I built Atlas Industries from the ground up, starting with a small tech startup in my garage. While James climbed the corporate ladder at Chen Enterprises, Victoria's family company, I was working 18-hour days, pouring everything I had into my dream. Not that my family noticed. They were too busy celebrating James's every promotion, every bonus, every small achievement. Miss Porter, my assistant's voice snapped me back to the present. The board meeting starts in 5 minutes. I nodded, setting the invitation aside. Today, Atlas Industries was worth over $2 billion. But I had kept my ownership private, operating through holding companies and subsidiaries. As far as my family knew, I was just another mid-level executive at some tech company. Also, my assistant added, Chen Enterprises sent over the final contract for the semiconductor deal. They're expecting signatures by the end of the week. Ah yes, the deal. $50 million worth of custom semiconductors that Chen Enterprises desperately needed for their new product line. They had no idea they were negotiating with my company, or more specifically, with me. The wedding was this weekend, and part of me wanted to skip it, but Mother had been insistent. Your brother is marrying into the Chen family, she'd said, her voice dripping with pride. Do try to dress appropriately for once. I'd built a billion-dollar company wearing jeans and hoodies, but in my mother's eyes, I was still a disappointment who couldn't maintain a proper appearance. The day of the wedding arrived, sunny and bright. I wore a simple but elegant black dress. Designer, though my family wouldn't recognize the subtle label. The ceremony was exactly as extravagant as you'd expect when old money married new money. 500 guests, crystal chandeliers, champagne fountains, and enough flowers to fill a botanical garden. Sarah. My mother's voice carried across the church courtyard. She air-kissed my cheek, careful not to smudge her perfect makeup. You actually came, and you look presentable. Behind her, my father was deep in conversation with Mr. Chen, probably discussing the upcoming semiconductor deal. If only they knew. Where should I sit? I asked, glancing at the elaborate seating chart. My mother waved vaguely. Oh, we had to make some last-minute changes. Victoria's family had so many important guests to accommodate. You understand? I did understand. In my family's eyes, I was the embarrassment, the failure who'd thrown away a medical career to chase some entrepreneurial fantasy. What they didn't know was that Atlas Industries had recently acquired 3 of Chen Enterprises' major suppliers. The semiconductor deal was just the beginning. The ceremony was beautiful. I'll give them that. Victoria looked stunning in her designer gown, and James beamed with the confidence of someone who thought he had it all figured out. I sat in the back, watching as my brother married into what he thought was a more powerful family than his own. Then came the reception. I followed the crowd to the grand ballroom, looking for my name card among the elegantly set tables, but I couldn't find it anywhere. Looking for something, Victoria's voice came from behind me, sweet as artificial sugar. She changed into her reception dress, every inch the perfect bride. My seat, I said simply. Her perfectly painted lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Oh, didn't anyone tell you? We had to make some arrangements for the more distinguished guests. The kitchen staff set up a lovely table in the back. You know where the help eats. I heard snickers from nearby guests. James appeared at Victoria's side, champagne in hand. Come on, sis, don't make a scene. You've always been good at knowing your place. 10 years of condescension and dismissal flashed through my mind. 10 years of being treated like the family failure while I built something they couldn't even imagine. I smiled, pulled out my phone, and dialed a number I knew by heart. Jack, this is Sarah Porter. I maintained eye contact with my brother as I spoke. Cancel the semiconductor contract with Chen Enterprises. All of it. James's champagne glass slipped from his fingers, shattering on the marble floor. Victoria's smile froze. What are you talking about? James demanded. What contract? I held up my phone, showing the Atlas Industries logo on the screen. The $50 million deal your new father-in-law has been counting on. The one that was supposed to save their quarter. The one that Atlas Industries, my company, was going to provide. The color drained from his face. Atlas, that's impossible. Atlas is a multi-billion-dollar. You can't? Can't what, James? Build a successful company? Be more than what you and our parents decided I was worth? I slipped my phone back into my purse. Congratulations on your wedding. I'm sure the kitchen staff will save you some cake. The silence that followed my announcement was deafening. Guests around us froze, champagne glasses halfway to their lips, as they watched the drama unfold. Victoria's perfect bridal makeup couldn't hide the panic spreading across her face. You're lying, she hissed, grabbing my arm. Atlas Industries is owned by Simon Porter. Everyone knows that. I smiled. Simon Porter is my uncle. He's been the public face of the company while I built it from behind the scenes. Would you like to call him to verify? James's face had turned an interesting shade of gray. The semiconductors. Dad Chen's whole expansion plan depends on that contract. I know, I said calmly. Just like I know about the 3 failed product launches this year, the mounting debt, and the fact that Chen Enterprises has been operating on borrowed time and borrowed money for the past 18 months. Victoria's father appeared behind them, his usual confident demeanor cracking. What's going on here? James, why is your sister talking about our contract? I turned to face him, extending my hand. Mr. Chen, I don't believe we've been properly introduced. Sarah Porter, CEO of Atlas Industries, though you might know me better as SP Holdings from the negotiation calls. The great David Chen, titan of industry, stumbled backward as if I'd struck him. You're SP, the one who's been buying our supplier companies? Guilty, I smiled. Though I have to say, your due diligence team should have dug deeper. A simple background check would have revealed the connection. My mother pushed through the growing crowd, her face flushed with anger and champagne. Sarah, stop this nonsense immediately. You're ruining your brother's wedding. Nonsense. I pulled out my phone again, opening my banking app. Would you like to see Atlas's quarterly reports? Or maybe the ownership documents? I have them right here. James grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in painfully. Fix this, he growled. Whatever game you're playing, fix it now. I met his eyes steadily, like you fixed things when I needed a loan to start my company. When I came to you for help and you laughed in my face. Get a real job, you said. Stop embarrassing the family. That was different, he protested. You were being unrealistic. Was I? I gestured around the opulent ballroom. Who paid for all this, James? Chen Enterprises, the company that's 3 months away from bankruptcy without my semiconductors. Victoria let out a choked sob, her perfect mascara starting to run. Daddy, is this true? Are we really? Mr. Chen loosened his bow tie, sweat beading on his forehead. Princess, it's complicated. Business is, we just need time to. Time won't help. I interrupted softly. Your company has been hemorrhaging money for years. The semiconductor deal was your last hope for a turnaround. And now? My father finally stepped forward, his face a storm of confusion and dawning realization. Sarah, all these years when we thought you were struggling, I was building an empire. I finished for him. One that's now worth more than Chen Enterprises and all its subsidiaries combined. Funny how appearances can be deceiving, isn't it? The murmurs from the wedding guests grew louder. Phones appeared in hands as people started searching for Atlas Industries, connecting the dots. Victoria's carefully curated society wedding was turning into a public relations nightmare. Please, James whispered, his arrogance finally cracking. Sarah, you can't do this. Not today. Think about what this will do to our family. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Our family? You mean the one that excluded me from every holiday photo because I didn't dress expensively enough? The one that told me I was throwing my life away because I didn't follow the path he chose? Mother stepped closer, trying to salvage the situation. Darling, we were just worried about you. We wanted you to have a stable career, a respectable life. Like James? I raised an eyebrow. The perfect son who's been embezzling from his department to cover his gambling debts? James went pale. How did you? I own the company that audits Chen Enterprises books, I said quietly. I know everything, James. Every cooked number, every fake report, every cent you've stolen. I was waiting to see how far you'd go before I exposed it. Victoria whirled on him, her designer dress whispering across the marble floor. You've been stealing from my father's company. The perfect wedding was unraveling thread by thread. Guests were openly recording now, society's elite capturing the moment a powerful family discovered they weren't as powerful as they thought. Mr. Chen's face had turned purple with rage. Security. Get them out. All of them. I wouldn't do that, I said calmly, unless you want Atlas to call in all the loans we've acquired from your creditors. We own quite a bit of Chen Enterprises debt now. It would be a shame if it all came due at once. The security guards froze, looking uncertainly between Mr. Chen and me. Power was shifting in real time, and everyone could feel it. What do you want? Mr. Chen finally asked, his voice hoarse. I straightened my simple black dress, the one my mother had sneered at earlier. Want? I have everything I want. A successful company, respect in the business world, the satisfaction of knowing that the family who dismissed me now depends on my mercy for their survival. James stepped forward, his handsome face twisted with desperation. Sarah, please. We can work something out. Maybe a board position at Chen Enterprises, full partnership in the family business. Partnership? I smiled. James, by this time next week, I'll own controlling interest in Chen Enterprises. Your gambling debts and Victoria's father's mismanagement have seen to that. The semiconductor deal was just a formality, a courtesy before the takeover. Victoria sank into a nearby chair, her wedding dress pulling around her like broken dreams. This can't be happening. Not today, not at my wedding. The kitchen staff really does have a lovely table set up, I said, echoing her earlier sneer. Perfect for a family in your new position. My mother tried one last time. Sarah, think about what you're doing. We're your family. No, I said quietly. You're the people who taught me that success only counts if it comes with designer labels and society connections. Thank you for that lesson. It made building my company in secret so much sweeter. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and James, those gambling debts you've been hiding? Atlas now owns those too. We'll be in touch about a payment plan. The grand ballroom erupted in chaos behind me as I walked away. Victoria's sobs echoed off the crystal chandeliers, mixed with Mr. Chen's angry shouts and my mother's attempts to maintain social dignity. Outside, my Tesla waited at the valet stand, not the flashy sports car James drove, but the understated model preferred by tech executives who actually built something. My driver, who was also my head of security, held the door. Everything okay, Ms. Porter? I looked back at the expensive venue, where my family's carefully constructed world was crumbling. Everything's perfect, Mike. Let's head to the office. We have a company to acquire. The next few weeks were a blur of headlines and business meetings. Chen Enterprises' stock plummeted as news of their financial troubles and James's embezzlement leaked. Victoria filed for annulment, unwilling to be tied to a failing dynasty. My parents tried desperately to reach me, leaving voicemails that evolved from angry demands to tearful pleas. I focused on what I did best, building and improving. Atlas Industries absorbed Chen Enterprises' valuable assets while discarding the bloat and corruption. We retained most of the employees, but restructured the management, starting with James' department. 3 months after the wedding that wasn't, I sat in my office reviewing quarterly reports when my assistant announced an unexpected visitor. Send them in, I said, not looking up from my tablet. The door opened, and expensive perfume filled the air. My mother stood there, looking older and less certain than I'd ever seen her. The receptionist didn't recognize me, she said quietly. I had to show ID to prove I was your mother. Security protocol, I replied, finally meeting her eyes. We've had some interesting visitors since the takeover. She sat down uninvited, her designer bag, last season's model now, clutched in her hands. Your father and I, we've been doing a lot of thinking about how we treated you, about what we failed to see. And I kept my voice neutral. And we were wrong, she whispered. So terribly wrong. We thought success looked like James, all flash and no substance. We didn't understand that real success was what you were building. I leaned back in my chair, studying her. Did you come here to apologize, Mother? Or because the country club membership is up for renewal and you need help with the fees? She flinched. We deserve that. We deserve all of it. But Sarah, you're still our daughter. Surely that means something. It meant nothing when I needed your support, I said calmly. Why should it mean something now that I don't? A tear slipped down her perfectly made-up face. Because we've learned. Because seeing everything you've built, everything you've become. We're so proud of you, Sarah. Even if we don't deserve to be. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city where my company had become a major force. Pride is easy when success is visible, Mother. The question is, would you have been proud of me during the struggle? When I was working out of a garage, wearing the same clothes every day because every spare cent went into the company? No, she admitted softly. We wouldn't have been. And that's our shame to carry. I turned back to face her. James called again yesterday. He wants a job at Atlas. And I told him what he told me 10 years ago. Get some real experience first. Stop relying on family connections. She nodded slowly. He's living in our guest room now. Victoria's family. They want nothing to do with us since the scandal. The mighty fall hard, I observed. How does it feel, Mother, being on the other side of society's judgment? Humbling, she whispered. Terrifying. Educational. I returned to my desk and pressed a button on my phone. Clara, please bring in the package for Mrs. Porter. My assistant appeared moments later with a thick envelope. I handed it to my mother. What's this? She asked, opening it carefully. A fresh start, I said. Information about the small business loan program Atlas runs. Real estate listings for affordable commercial spaces. Contact details for legitimate business advisors. Everything you need to build something real, if you're willing to do the work. She stared at the papers, then at me. You'd help us? After everything? I'm not helping. I corrected her. I'm offering an opportunity. What you do with it is up to you. But understand this. There will be no shortcuts, no special treatment, no trading on the Porter name. If you want to succeed, you'll do it the way I did, through hard work and real value. My mother stood, clutching the envelope like a lifeline. Thank you, Sarah, for the opportunity and for the lesson. One more thing, I said as she reached the door. That kitchen table at James's wedding? Best seat in the house. It's where you see people's true colors. She nodded, understanding the message. As the door closed behind her, I returned to my work. The company I built needed my attention, and I had more important things to do than dwell on the past. Sometimes the best revenge isn't serving someone humble pie. It's making them eat it at the kitchen table they set for you. And sometimes the greatest success isn't in proving others wrong, but in proving yourself right. Atlas Industries continues to grow, now one of the most respected companies in the tech sector. James eventually found work as a junior analyst at a small firm. Learning the value of honest work, my parents opened a small boutique with a loan they qualified for. Nothing flashy, but something real. And me? I still keep my old garage workbench in my office. It reminds me of where I started and why appearances mean nothing compared to what you actually build. The kitchen table, after all, is where real work gets done.
My bedroom walls are still covered in faded posters from when I was 12. Glow-in-the-dark stars half peeled off the ceiling, a crooked Jonas Brothers calendar from 2012 still hanging by one pushpin. It's not a room. It's a time capsule no one bothered to update because no one ever really expected me to stay. Or matter. Every month I Venmo my mom $400 for rent. No lease, no privacy, just the unspoken agreement that my contribution keeps the fridge full and the power on. It's the same house I grew up in, but I'm treated like a guest who overstayed her welcome. Colt, on the other hand, lives rent-free in the largest upstairs bedroom with blackout curtains, a PS5, and a mini fridge stocked with energy drinks and leftover wings. He once called it his penthouse suite as a joke. No one laughed, but no one disagreed either. Dad says Colt's just finding himself like he's some misunderstood poet instead of a man-child who dropped out of 2 majors and still thinks the world owes him a soft landing. Mom defends him with a sigh and that line she's perfected over the years. He's got a sensitive spirit. Not everyone thrives the same way. Meanwhile, I'm clocking overtime at a help desk job where people scream at me because their printer won't connect to Wi-Fi. I fix their problems. I keep the lights on. I fold laundry in silence while Colt plays beer pong in the backyard with his friends, their laughter echoing through the walls like I don't exist. Sometimes I wonder what it would feel like to walk into this house and not immediately feel the weight of being less. Not because anyone says it out loud, but because it's built into everything the way Dad brags about Colt's latest potential. The way Mom beams at him when he walks in late with his hoodie still smelling like tequila. I used to tell myself if I just worked hard enough, kept my head down, chipped in when asked, they'd see me. But all they see is someone who's useful, not someone who belongs. And last Thursday, they proved it again. Colt graduated last weekend with a 2.4 GPA and a grin like he'd just cured cancer. It took him 6 years, 3 major changes, and more failed classes than I could count. But when his name was finally called, Mom clapped like her hands were on fire, and Dad wiped away a tear like his son had just been knighted. I didn't go to the ceremony. I had to work. They told me to be home by 5 for a surprise. I thought maybe we were doing a dinner or a cake. But no, this was much bigger. In the driveway sat a gleaming white Tesla Model 3 Performance, still wrapped in ribbon, its black rims sparkling like something out of a luxury commercial. Colt screamed when he saw it. Literally screamed. He jumped up and down, nearly tackled Dad, and then started filming a video for his Instagram story before he even touched the door handle. Mom took pictures. Dad handed him the key in a little black box like it was a proposal. I stood behind them on the porch, arms crossed. No one looked at me until Dad turned and said, "Don't be jealous. Your brother deserves this after working so hard." I stared at him. I graduated with honors, in 4 years, while working 2 jobs. Mom didn't miss a beat. College was easier for you. Colt really struggled. Right. He struggled to get out of bed before noon. Struggled to remember which girl he was dating that month. Struggled to keep a straight face when lying to our parents' faces about his grades, his habits, and his weekend plans. When I graduated, I got a $50 Applebee's gift card. No dinner, no speech. No photo of me in a cap and gown on the fridge. They handed Colt a $60,000 car. They handed me silence. And by the time the engine purred to life and he peeled out of the driveway with that smug look on his face, I already knew this wasn't a celebration. It was a warning. Within a week, the Tesla became Colt's entire personality. Every conversation, every post, every excuse to leave the house, it all revolved around that car. He called it white lightning and acted like owning it made him royalty. Most nights he came home at 2 a.m., slurring lyrics with his windows down, waking up the whole neighborhood. I once heard him rev it 3 times in the driveway just to hear the tires squeal against the concrete. It would have been pathetic if it wasn't so dangerous. I watched him drive, buzzed more times than I could count. Once I offered to call him an Uber, and he laughed, leaning against the car like some kind of Instagram model. "It's got autopilot," he said, like that would keep him from killing someone. His friends piled in red-eyed and stumbling, and off they went. Grocery store donuts. Red lights rolled through. A video of Colt pretending to sleep while the car drove itself made it to TikTok. I reported it. Nothing happened. I sat Mom and Dad down one night and told them I was scared. Scared that Colt was going to hurt someone. Scared that they were letting it happen. "You're just jealous," Mom said. "He's living his life." "He's 21, Dad added. "Let the boy have some fun. Don't act like you were perfect at his age." I wasn't. But I also didn't drive a $60,000 machine through residential streets like I was filming Fast and Furious 12. I didn't gamble with other people's lives while my parents clapped from the sidelines. One night I came home late from work and found Colt in the hallway outside my room, crouched next to the hall closet. He jumped when he saw me. "What are you doing?" I asked. He held up a charger. "Looking for this," he said casually. "Thought maybe it was in your softball bag." The bat was sticking halfway out. He smiled too easily and walked off. And something in my stomach twisted in a way I couldn't explain. It happened on a Thursday night. I was in bed half asleep when I heard the front door slam open and frantic footsteps pound across the hardwood floor. Voices whispered harshly in the hallway. Dad's low and clipped, Mom's shaking and breathless. Then the front door again slamming shut behind them. I pulled on a hoodie and crept down the stairs. From the kitchen window, I caught a glimpse of Dad's car speeding down the street. The silence that followed was thick, brittle. At 4:30 a.m., the headlights reappeared. I peeked from the living room window as Dad helped Colt out of the car. Helped as in practically carried. Colt was missing a shoe, his forehead had dried blood smeared across it, and he kept muttering something about how the tree came out of nowhere. They brought him inside like he was a wounded soldier, not a reckless drunk who could have killed someone. Mom fussed over him with an ice pack and Advil while Dad barked orders to keep the damn lights off. I stayed hidden in the shadows by the stairs, listening. By morning, the Tesla was in the garage. I wasn't sure how they got it towed so fast, must have had a private tow guy on speed dial. When I tried to peek, the garage was already shut and locked. Later that afternoon, while Colt slept off the crash, I passed by the laundry room and caught Dad whispering to Mom. "They'll ask questions," she said. "We'll say it happened backing out," Dad replied. "Tree limb or pole. Just cosmetic. Should we say it was you driving number 2 risky? We say it was parked." My stomach dropped. No mention of calling the cops. No mention of accountability. Just strategies. That night over dinner, Colt came downstairs like nothing happened, a bruise forming on his cheek. He cracked open a soda, turned on the TV, and grinned. Nobody said a word. And outside, behind the closed garage door, the Tesla sat silent, its crushed front end, the only honest thing in this house. 2 days after the crash, Mom texted me during my lunch break. "Family meeting at 6. Be home on time. No emojis, no context." Just that clipped tone she used when something uncomfortable was coming and she wanted to pretend it was civil. When I walked into the living room, they were already waiting. Dad sat upright on the couch, fingers laced together, performing seriousness like he was at a job interview. Mom hovered by the fireplace, pretending to straighten a picture frame. Colt slouched in the recliner, scrolling through his phone like this was all a minor inconvenience. "We've looked into the damage Dad started. The insurance won't cover it. Because of the circumstances." "You mean because he was drunk," I said. Mom's head snapped up. "Don't be dramatic. He'd only had a few drinks." I didn't respond. She said it like that made everything fine, like blood on a forehead and a crumpled car were just normal Thursday night problems. Dad cleared his throat. "Repairs will cost around $18,000. We can cover 3. Colt has 500. Of course he did. Colt had never held on to more than $100 in his life. Then Dad turned to me. "We were hoping you could chip in the rest." I blinked. "Chip in," I repeated. "You have savings," Mom added quickly. "We know you've been putting money aside." "My escape fund," I said. "For first and last month's rent. For leaving this house." They said nothing. I looked at each of them, even Colt, who didn't bother to look back. "No," I said. Calm, clear. Like it was the most rational thing in the world. Dad opened his mouth, but I stood up before he could launch into whatever guilt-laced speech was coming. "I'm not paying for your cover-up," I said. "He wrecked it. He can deal with it." I turned toward the hallway, and I didn't need to look back to know they were already rewriting the story in their heads. And the next morning, I found out just how far they were willing to go. It started with a bang. Literally. I jolted awake at 7 a.m. to the sound of metal being slammed, something sharp and violent echoing from the garage. At first I thought maybe the garbage pickup had gotten aggressive, but then I heard shouting Dad's voice clipped and low, followed by Mom's breathless and panicked. I threw on sweats and rushed downstairs. The garage door was open, and all 3 of them were standing around the Tesla like it was a body on the floor. Except now it looked worse than before. Every window had been smashed. Deep dents lined both doors. One side mirror dangled uselessly by its wires, and the windshield was shattered into a glittering spiderweb. It looked like someone had taken a sledgehammer to it in a fit of rage. Then I saw it, my old softball bat lying half buried in the bushes by the side of the garage, the same bat that used to sit in the back of my closet untouched for years. Colt turned to me, face red with practiced fury. "Like you don't know what happened." I blinked. "Excuse me." "You did this?" he yelled. "You've been bitter ever since I got the Tesla. This is pathetic." Dad picked up the bat like it was a smoking gun. "This was in the bushes." "Yours, right?" Mom folded her arms across her chest. "We already filed the insurance claim, told them it was vandalism. By someone angry." They all looked at me. "You're serious," I said. "You think I did this?" Colt scoffed. "You're the only one who hated the car." I stared at the 3 people I shared a roof with. They weren't accusing me because they believed it. They were accusing me because it was convenient, because Colt was their investment and I was disposable. And that was the moment I realized this wasn't just about a car anymore. Mac Trenton showed up on Monday morning exactly at 9. Khakis windbreaker clipboard. He looked like the kind of guy who didn't have time for nonsense and had heard every lie in the book twice already. Dad tried to intercept him at the door with a firm handshake and his concerned homeowner face. "We've just been so shaken," he said, voice low and steady. "Our daughter's been under a lot of stress. She's always been emotional." Mac didn't even look up. "Where's the vehicle?" They led him to the garage. Colt tagged along, walking slow and solemn like he was on his way to a funeral. The bruise on his cheek had faded into a soft purple smear, but he still touched it now and then like it hurt. Performance mode, full tilt. Mac inspected the Tesla in silence, camera clicking with every angle. He spent a long time looking at the front end, crouching beside the bumper, then opening the door to check inside. He ran a finger through the airbag dust, still coating the dashboard. "You said this happened Saturday morning?" he asked. Mom nodded. "We found it like this around 7. I cleared my throat. "I'd like to give my side," I said. Mac turned to me, eyebrows slightly raised. "Go ahead." The car was already wrecked before the vandalism. Colt crashed it Thursday night. Into a tree. My dad picked him up. They hid it in the garage before anyone saw. Dad scoffed. "She's making that up." "Check the airbags," I said. They were already deployed before the windows were smashed. "That powder? It's been there for days." Mac paused. His eyes shifted back to the car. Then to me. Then to the bat in the evidence bag on the workbench. "Interesting," he muttered. Colt rolled his eyes. "She's just pissed I got the Tesla." I kept my voice even. "I didn't touch that car. But I warned you someone would." Mac nodded slowly, making a note. And for the first time, I saw something I hadn't seen in days. Someone in the room who didn't automatically believe Colt. Mac texted me 2 days later from an unknown number. "This is Mac Trenton. Can we meet?" Something came up. 4 p.m. Greenfield Cafe. I showed up 10 minutes early. He was already there, seated in the back corner with a tablet and a folder full of printouts. He didn't waste time with small talk. "I canvassed the neighborhood," he said, flipping the tablet toward me. "Turns out the new folks 2 doors down installed a wide-angle camera last month. Covers more than just their driveway." He hit play. There, in the soft glow of 2:13 a.m. Saturday morning, was Colt. Clear as day. Walking down our driveway with my softball bat in hand. Opening the trunk of my car, digging through my gear bag, then heading straight to the garage. The next 10 minutes played out like a scene from a cheap revenge movie. Colt bat in hand, taking his time window by window, dent by dent, unraveling the Tesla with methodical swings and smug precision. When the video ended, Mac didn't say anything. He didn't need to. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. "He's not just careless," I said. "He planned this. He framed you." Mac agreed, badly. A moment later, a woman in a Navy uniform entered the cafe and made her way to our table. "Officer Rivera." She introduced herself with a calm, steady voice and sat down across from me. "We've reviewed the footage," she said. "The DA's office will handle the insurance fraud angle. But there's another piece we need your input on." She leaned forward. "You can press charges for attempted false reporting evidence tampering criminal mischief. That decision is yours." I looked at her. Then at Mac. Then, back at the paused image on the screen, my brother in my hoodie holding my bat and destroying the car I'd been blamed for. And for the first time in a long time, I realized I had the power to say no, not as a plea, as a choice. I nodded once. "Yes, I want to press charges." She wrote it down. No hesitation, no apology, just truth. And by the time I stepped outside, the wind felt different. When I got home, the air inside felt heavier than it ever had. Mom was pacing with her phone pressed to her chest like a shield. Dad sat at the kitchen table, red-faced and silent. "You need to call the officer back," Mom said, trembling. "Tell her it was a misunderstanding, that you won't press charges." "She said Colt could face jail time," Dad added. "We're a family. This isn't how we handle things." "No," I said, calm. "It's how I'm handling it." Mom broke down her tears, loud and deliberate. "We've done everything for you, and this is how you repay us." I didn't answer. I walked upstairs and started packing. A duffel bag, my laptop, ID, bank cards, birth certificate, just enough to start over. I'd been saving for months, just in case I ever got brave enough to walk out. I guess it wasn't bravery. Just finally being done. When I came back down, Dad stepped in front of the door. "If you leave now, don't come back." I looked him in the eye. "That's the idea." He stepped aside. I walked out, not looking back, just as my phone buzzed. It was Officer Rivera. "We're ready for your full statement tomorrow morning." The court case moved faster than anyone expected. Colt pled guilty to everything: false reporting, insurance fraud, criminal mischief. The evidence was too clear, too stupidly brazen to fight. He got 6 months in county jail, 3 years probation, a suspended license, and a fine big enough to wipe out his weed fund for a decade. My parents weren't charged, but the fraud investigation led to penalties. Their insurance was canceled. Legal fees piled up. They had to sell the house to cover the debt. The house I once paid rent in, the one that had never really been mine. I signed a lease on a 1-bedroom apartment across town. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I bought my own dishes, set up my Wi-Fi, hung a corkboard by the front door with a sticky note that read, "No one else gets to write this story." Work promoted me. I started night classes in cybersecurity, something I'd put off for years, waiting for the right time, the right space. Now I had both. Sometimes I catch myself standing still, just listening to the quiet. No slamming doors, no guilt, just peace. Then, one night 6 months later, I opened my door and found them waiting. They showed up just before sunset, both of them standing outside my apartment door like they'd rehearsed the scene 100 times. Dad wore a wrinkled polo and that tired, practiced look of a man trying to appear reasonable. Mom held a folder full of bills and spoke first. "We're losing everything," she said. "Colt's trying to turn things around. We need help to get through this next part." I let them speak, listened to every word of their pitch about frozen accounts, hospital bills, Colt's therapy, and how family is supposed to come through for each other. When they finished, I asked quietly, "Which part of framing me for a felony makes you think you deserve my support?" They didn't answer. Couldn't. Their faces collapsed inward, all performance draining out. I nodded, not with anger, just clarity. Then I closed the door. No yelling, no final plea. Just a soft, decisive click as the lock turned behind them. That night, I sent one message. The answer is no. Don't contact me again. Then I blocked their numbers, turned my phone face down, and sat in the quiet. For once, it felt like my life had no one else's fingerprints on it but mine.